Welcome back to another episode of Shizoda and Friends podcast. My name is Shizoda, and today I'm sharing the interview I had with my friend Chuma. Chuma is a Brooklyn born and raised software engineer who works at Etsy currently. He is a child of Nigerian immigrants, and I quote, "That is the foundation to his work ethic and swagger." This conversation was a lot of fun, and he talks about how he went from Mark Twain, the school for young and gifted children, I think was like the slogan, to Brooklyn Tech, to eventually Brooklyn College. He then worked as an IT and then eventually made the transition to software engineering. And if you're in IT, you know that that's kind of tricky. That's a hard battle. And he interned at places like Con Edison, MasterCard, Etsy, and has another big adventure coming up. So stay tuned. We talk all about that, and we talk about a few other things, a little about how to deal with awkwardness, how social interactions kind of work. We talk a little bit about how being an immigrant impacted his personality as well. It was a lot of fun, so I hope you enjoy. Oh, and as always, leave a comment down below with what you thought. Give us a like. If this is on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, feel free to rate and subscribe and follow. Definitely subscribe on YouTube. Join our Discord server and join the newsletter. I send no more than once a month newsletter. Once a month letter through email. And I say no more than once a month because I sometimes miss. Like last month. I just, Anyway. Enjoy the episode. Chuma, welcome to the Shizoda and Friends podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you. The pleasure is truly mine. It's been, 2 years since we actually met face-to-face and hung out?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been at least over 2.5 years because I've been at Etsy for 2.7 years.
Oh, man. That's actually kind of ridiculous. That's a long time. It feels like just yesterday we were at like the cafe library at Brooklyn College.
Right. I think definitely the pandemic, like just a year of pandemic, that was like a month. And then But I know you've been up to big things, you've been here,
Whoa.
you've been there, you're in Cali right now.
Look at you blowing up my spot. Damn. Okay, wait. Tell us about how you got to where you are now, how you kind of broke into the tech industry. And maybe after you talk a little bit about your journey, you can talk about what you're exactly doing now at Etsy. Look at you repping them up with a sweatshirt.
Right, just a little unique. So my name is Chuma Okoro. Born and raised in Brooklyn, and I went to Brooklyn schools my entire life. I started out at Mark Twain, and at Mark Twain I did I was like a math and computer talent, so I was kind of using computers, but we were
we young and talented, was it?
Yo, I mean that's what the name of the school was, quote unquote. But
I love it.
Yeah, but we were doing like PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, like creating nice documents and stuff like that. Nothing crazy. I think there was one program I used that kind of stitched together animations, which was kind of cool. So you could make like movies out of different pictures. But
animations on what? Microsoft?
I don't know what program it was again, but you could make like movie type animations on a computer. And the reason why I wanted to get into that talent was I was already good at math, but then I also like computers. Like I would play, armor games, mini clip, Nitro, for all my nerds, y'all know about that. So yeah, I was big onto the computer game scene. And then, so when I was in school, I just tried to do classes or talents that I could, really play on a computer. And it wasn't so much that I was educational minded. I just, wanted to, be able to play games while I was at school. So at Brooklyn Tech, I was, football was my priority, but in school, my talent was electromechanical engineering because you could use a computer at Brooklyn Tech or in that major. So, I was like playing games on the computers, this and that. And then it wasn't until college that I really tried to focus on school. And I was like, okay, I like computers, so why not do computer science? And I did that. Took my first class in Intro to Computer Science. I had who was that professor? Professor something with a J. She was like one of my best professors that I ever had.
With a J?
With a J. She retired. You probably know her name.
With a J.
It's like I need to shout her out at some point. I'll find it. But yeah, I did that class, and we did programs like tic-tac-toe and just different little, those entry-level, first class type of programs. And like a calculator, we did a calculator program. And it was just really cool. And, it's like actually interesting. Like I would go to the library to like, oh, I have to work on this assignment or do studying or whatever. But it didn't feel like studying because it's like, oh yeah, I'm just like, putting these systems and stuff together. And then,
That's very cool.
Yeah. And sorry.
No. Go ahead. I'll ask you afterwards.
Yeah. So yeah, after that, I was working in like an after school program, like on the side, for like money and stuff like that. And I met someone there who, Stacy Blissett, she's one of my mentors now, but she gave me an opportunity to do some IT work, like setting up computers with the Commission on Human Rights, which is like some New York City organization. And from there, I was doing IT. From there, I got into Con Edison, did like an internship there, doing more IT. And then I was at Con Edison for like a summer, and then I stayed for like a couple months into the school year. And I remember I was trying to get into software engineering space, but I kept getting rejected. And then, so I ended up deciding I just quit so I could focus on my resume. And then from there, that's how I, got my first engineering internship, and it sort of took off from there.
I think after that was MasterCard for you, right? And then now Etsy?
Yeah, that was the summer after the Con Ed internship, MasterCard. And then, yeah. And then I graduated full-time. After I graduated, I started full-time at Etsy.
There's two questions that came up to me, and I guess I'll go from the last one that came up was with, at Brooklyn College, your first coding courses were like learning tic-tac-toe and actually doing stuff with a graphical user interface?
Yeah, I don't think it was...
That teacher sounds legendary.
Yeah, she did. I think we did something like... it might not have been like the first project, but... We did something with the command line, and you just printed out, like a bunch of dashes and lines to print a tic-tac-toe game board. And then, we just did the logic for, like a 3x3 board. So we did the logic to check, okay, like if it's all vertical, all horizontal, or two diagonals. And then if it's winner, tie, or, some whatever else. And that was one of the first projects I remember, like big projects.
Yeah. Mine was definitely not like that. Mine was almost all just like programming, like abstract concepts. Well, actually, I think everything I've done in academia has been like that, and then like websites I've been were like the only thing with like a front end component.
Yeah, interesting.
And you?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, do you feel like you lacked in that you didn't get to do some more concrete stuff in academia?
That's a good question. I think I personally didn't mind too much, but I think if it's your first time coding, one thing I remember is I think it was like the area of a torus. A torus is a donut shape, right? And I think like that's such a weird thing to like. That's one of the projects I remember from my intro class. And I think that, there was something else with like DNA sequencing, like monkeys and I think and humans. And it was just like so weird, or maybe bananas and humans. It was just like these things that were just like, in general, I think people tend to be intimidated by math and science. And then like throw that on top of computer science, these other unknown, and computer science itself is like an unknown thing. And then you throw another unknown concept of like these science and math components. I think it's just not the greatest introduction if it's your first time coding.
Right.
And like stuff like tic-tac-toe is just a lot more accessible. within
Yeah.
reach.
Yeah. A lot more interesting.
Interesting. It's easy to understand. Like, you don't have to understand the concept of a torus and why you would want to know what, like, I guess, like, the volume of a donut might be nice to know, but it's just like a weird thing.
Right. That being said, even with, like, I think that that professor was like one of my favorite professors over my, Brooklyn College career. But
She's your
over
favorite, but you forgot her name.
yeah, I'm terrible.
I'm judging you.
I'm better with faces. I'm better with faces. Like, if I see her, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, Miss, Professor, whatever. I think like half the class that semester dropped out, so it's like not a. But I mean, that was kind of like a lot of the courses, and you went to Brooklyn College, so a lot of the time, like, if people didn't think that they were gonna pass, then they would just drop out so that they wouldn't get like a bad grade on their GPA.
Yeah.
Which is like, I guess, a little bit understandable.
Yeah. I was actually, that was the next question I was going to ask, was like, how bad was the drop off rate?
Yeah, it was like pretty bad. Like, I remember I was, there was like a group of four of us. Yeah, there was a group of four of us, and we were all, super cool. I'm still cool with a bunch of them too, but 50% of us dropped out. So 2 of us dropped out, and then 2 of us, finished it, and were able to get past that class. Yeah.
The other question I had for you was, it seems like such a clear path into tech, from your first elementary school, I think Mark Twain is, right?
That's a middle school.
So, like, from your middle school to high school to college, it seems like such a clear, cut-out path. Was it just, like, naturally did this organically happen, or did somebody guide you in the right direction?
Yeah. I guess in terms of getting into, when we say tech, I guess I'm thinking, is it like IT or software engineering, or, because I feel like
Just
there's
playing with computers, playing with
playing with
software,
computers. Yeah.
including IT, like setting up stuff.
Yeah, so I would say there's definitely a little bit of a straight path into, I guess, like the field, I guess, academia wise, of technology. Like, I know, like, in terms of getting into IT, I never would have gotten that opportunity to do an IT job without Stacy, because like I was literally working in PlayLab 133. PS 133. It's in downtown Park Slope ish area, and I was like working in after school, working with kids, and she just knew that my major was computer science, and like I was like helpful with her kids and all that, so she was like, oh hey Chuma, like it was really the opportunity was like, because they're moving from one location to, like, they're moving from downtown Brooklyn to Manhattan, and she needed, like, because I was also a little bit bigger when I was a freshman in college. So she was like, oh, you understand computers and you're like big enough to, carry some computers. So maybe you can help me, for a 1-month gig to move computers. And that's how that grew.
I think even before the career, more as like just like something you were curious about. Like, it sounds like it was just through games.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely through games. I was, just interested in it because I just wanted to be around computers. Like, if I had a computer and like my internet wasn't working, I would do the system diagnostics to figure out, this Wi-Fi's not working, like let me get this set up, or the Ethernet cable, you forgot to plug in the cable, that's why it's not working, let me plug that in so I could go to nitrome.com and continue playing Box Set 2 Play or something like that.
Yeah. I think my first like troubleshooting thing that I remember, which was like a printer. I don't know why, but I feel like printers always, from our house, completely disconnected, like every 2 weeks or so.
Right.
Okay, so your path sounds like it was easy, breezy, beautiful, just 1, 2, 3, natural progression upwards. What was the hardest part for you into getting where you are now, whether that's career-wise or knowledge base?
Yeah. Most difficult part, I think I would say, I think getting from that IT kind of bubble that I was in to software engineering was probably the hardest leap, because like computer science, I was learning how to code, and we were doing like Java and C++ and all that stuff. But I remember when I was applying to jobs and stuff like that, I just never was able to land like an internship or anything like that. IT, I was, didn't have trouble getting IT jobs, like, setting up computers and installing software and stuff, but I couldn't get a gig actually coding. That was the most difficult part.
Yeah, I feel like that's especially hard for IT. They'll just tend to like box you up, and that's the only opportunity you kind of get. Do you have any
Yeah.
advice for people who are in IT but really want to transition out of it? And how many years were you in like the IT side of tech?
Yeah, it was probably because I know freshman year, the summer after freshman year, that's when I did Con Edison, and then I probably did another summer after that. So probably like freshman sophomore year, that's when I was doing IT, and
About 2 years, maybe.
yeah, so about 2 years, and but also of course this was on the side because school was that was my main focus. But yeah, what would my advice be? So I can say what I did. So really, I was at Con Edison, and that was like pretty much set. Like they said I could work there until I graduated as like a co-op, but really I just quit to focus on my resume. And I was also like kind of like I told you, like selling Yeezys and stuff like that on the side. So I wasn't like super pressed for money, but I was also in the mindset that like, yo, I'm gonna get an internship this summer, and there's definitely a monetary aspect of it. Like I'm trying to get paid this summer, so I quit while I was in school. So I still had my main focus, and really just focused on like my resume and networking to try and get into that space. And it paid off. Like I was speaking to a bunch, like there's a bunch of people at Brooklyn College who I remember like the biggest internship for software engineering at the time, like what people were doing was JP Morgan. And
Oh, yeah.
you remember like a lot of people were
Hell,
getting
yeah, I was one of them.
yo, literally. And I remember my boy Akash Jairam, do you know him?
Yeah, gosh.
Yeah, so that was my boy, and he really like, I saw he was doing the JP Morgan. I was like, yo, how you got the JP Morgan? Like, put me on. And he did like the Code for Good. So I was like, all right, bet
That
I need to
one.
do the Code for Good. So I saw what successful people were doing, and I just did what they were doing. I was like, yo, bro, like let me see your resume. And he used latex, latex, if you know, like a latex editor, and his resume just looked crispy while I was using like Microsoft Word or whatever. So I was like, all right, bet, like send me your template, let me just copy your template and just put my information in. So I did that. I was doing Code for Good, going to hackathons, this and that, and just networking. Like I'd go to meetup.com. I was like going to the meetup page and just finding different ways to connect with people. At Con Edison, I remember there was this lady, Connie Gunn, something like that, and her husband was like a professional software engineer, and I was like, yo, like, can you give me some, before I quit, I was like, yo, can you give me some advice on my resume? Because I remember I went to the Magner Center, and everyone at the Magner Center was telling me, yo, your resume is good, da 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 da. And I was like, yo, why am I not getting the results? But
My resume's so good. Where are the jobs?
I'm saying, but I spoke to her husband, and he literally like ripped my resume apart, like literally shitted on my went in on my resume. Okay, so yeah, he shitted on my resume, and but I needed that. I honestly needed that because I really thought my resume was lit, and he was like, okay, like, yo, it's not really, you don't have any type of experience in this industry, so how's someone going to be able to make a bet on you to actually do the job and all that? So, getting critical feedback from a whole bunch of people who were doing the type of stuff that I wanted to do, networking, and seeing what successful people were doing, hackathons, all this stuff, and yeah, that's really what led to me actually, and also like quitting my Con Edison job so I could focus, take that bandwidth to focus on getting a job in that field. That's what I did. So, yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is just to network, like find people who are doing what you want to be doing and emulate that, like pick their brain, figure out what they're doing correctly and not. And then two, like, use other people's knowledge to be a little more critical of yourself and help yourself up. I think you're kind of like naturally, charismatic and you can get along with people. And I don't think I've ever seen you like show any signs of like social anxiety. Do you have any tips for people who just like aren't so comfortable in crowds or aren't so comfortable like asking for help? Or maybe we'll go to meet up and just like sit on the corner because they're terrified.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in crowds, I don't think I'm the most social in a crowd. Like, I usually, I mean, I don't know.
I think you always seem like you're at ease in crowds, which is not the case for everyone, including myself. I don't consider myself somebody who's like not very socially skilled, but I'm not comfortable in crowds usually. But you always seem like you're at ease, whether it was in class or at the cafe, like library, like wherever it was. Recruiting events, I've seen you, like those panels we used to do. Yeah. You never seemed like you were awkward or uncomfortable. You're just chilling.
Yeah. So I might say, I guess what would put me at ease is, go with a friend. So sometimes I would go with someone to these events. Like, I mean, go for good, I went by myself. Yeah. But, going with someone, going with a friend to an event, that can be a very good, a good way to, just make you a little bit more comfortable because you have someone to talk to. What else? Really just, so a lot of times just, when I'm in a group setting, whether it's like professional or just like interpersonal or whatever, I'll like find one person that like, I, mess with, I fuck with, and I'll kind of like talk to them and they'll be like my buddy, until I find someone else, and I'll just kind of talk to them, and then from there, like, you're talking to one person, then other people might find you, and then like oh hey, what y'all doing? Like, I see y'all got a little synergy going. Me trying to get in on that, and then it can get a little bit easier like that. And
anything else?
Yeah, what else would I say? A lot of times I would go to some of these because I was thinking like, oh, okay, like after that dude ripped up my resume, and like I was like, okay, my resume is not good, so I would literally go everywhere wanting feedback on my resume. So I literally would go to events and stuff like that with like a couple copies of my resume, and so
I did that too. I'd be like walking around with like a few resume copies, digital and hard copy, in case anybody was around who might want to look at it.
That's it. See, you know the key. You know the key to success. So yeah, I would go to a lot of these events with my resume in hand, and then if it was like a recruiting-ish event, like any event that had like, like if it's a meetup, then there's gonna be people who work in certain companies, or if it's like a company-hosted event, like a Code for Good, or some whatever other Twitter, I think you're at Facebook, whatever event that's being hosted. I would go there with my resume, and then like if there's a recruiter or an engineer there, I'd be like, yo, tell me what what do you think about this? Like, how bad is this? I'd say it's in that type of way, like how terrible is this resume? And then, they might say, oh, okay, I might tweak this, I might tweak that. And then that'd be like a way to kind of get a conversation going. And also just have some questions to ask, and, kind of be natural with it. And I know that's very vague, but, just... like have some questions to ask, like have like a purpose, like why are you going to XY event? I want to meet some people at the company, see what it's like to work there, things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a big one for me too, just like know why you're there. For instance, asking questions in a class. We've been in a few classes together, like I'll ask questions, like even if I'm not comfortable asking questions, like I'm here to learn something, I will ask the question. Same thing, like if it's recruiting event,
and I know you put in work.
Yeah, not just like random questions, but like usually I've studied before. But anyway, for like recruiting events, like if you're there for recruiting, like just use it, like that's the whole point, like you're there with a mission. Do you have any what's it called, mental models while approaching people, or certain perspectives you have about the whole thing?
Could you clarify that? Mental models?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for instance, like I think like a lot of anxious people might have different, I don't think it's always like logical, you know, like, oh my God, if I speak to this person, I'm going to bother them. Or if they see my resume, they're going to think I'm unqualified. Or, you know, like these are perspectives they can have that makes it hard for them to approach. And sometimes there's no like logical perspective. You're just nervous and you're not even sure why you're nervous. I'm curious if you have any, I don't know, like, I don't want to call them tips because they're not really tips, but like mental models, perspectives when you approach people. For instance, one I just said was, you're here to do a job, like do it, you know, like even if you have to do it in the most nervous, most awkward way, just get it done. It's like reviewing a resume. Even if you ask it the worst way possible, it's not gonna, like, you know, it's not gonna go down for nothing. It's not a waste.
right. Yeah. So I guess disclaimer, like I get nervous when I talk to people all the time, and especially new people that I don't know. I get nervous. I definitely get nervous. But,
what happens when you're nervous? Like how does it feel for you? Yeah.
I don't know. I might like stutter. I might be like,
yeah,
you know,
okay.
like
Words are hard to come by.
you know,
I hear you.
Yeah, you know, like awkward.
Any
I
physical
might be,
sensations for you?
Physical. I might start sweat. You know, I might sweat a little bit. Like, you know, different things like that.
I'll start fidgeting. That's my thing.
You'll fidget. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might, you know, like
hands.
you know, look away. Like, oh, okay, like not wanting to make eye contact, so they don't look at my soul. But yeah, what would I say? Any tips or mental models? I guess just like, I guess be in the moment. Like you know, like try to, you know, if you're gonna ask them a question or, you know, talk about anything, try to talk about stuff that, you know, y'all both have in common right now. Like, okay, you're, you know, I don't know if it's like you're outside in a park, you know, if you're in like Washington Square Park or whatever, like, oh, like, you know, like, what are you, I don't know, like, but, you know, I guess just be in the moment. Like, if it's, you know, I'm just giving an example. Like, you know, if you're in an event, like if you're at a, you know, Facebook event and they're trying to.
Excuse me, we're called a Meta now, please.
Meta, at a Meta
please.
Event, right? If you're at a Meta event and you're talking about the metaverse, let's say they're talking about Ethereum or whatever, you'd be like, oh, you know, yo, Ethereum, it just went up 20%. What you think about? I don't know.
I think
it's all very situational. It's hard to give tips.
What I've noticed is if something comes naturally to a person, it's hard for them to break down tips or guides. And I think to you, everyone gets nervous because you're not most people. Okay, if you're not a sociopath, you will get nervous. You know, like you will have natural feelings and some insecurities and some doubts. But I think for the most part, it comes pretty naturally to you. Do you have any insight to why or how you've been able to grow that part of yourself? One thing you mentioned in the intro was you're a very proud Nigerian Nigerian language broke right there. Children of Nigerian immigrants and Brooklyn born and raised. Those were some things that were like more personal on your intro. Do you think that relates at all, or in general? I'm curious, like, where do you get that natural confidence and the natural social skills, the charisma?
Natural confidence, natural charisma. Let's see. I mean, maybe it has something to do with that. My parents were, you know, pretty strict, so there was that. That does not make one
confident. My
probably doesn't. Right.
I don't think that
helps. But I was also defiant. So maybe there was that. Like, I didn't feel like listening to my parents a lot of the time. So we got into arguments.
That could be it, because I was not like that. Yeah. I was like, okay, whatever you want.
Yeah. Complete opposite. I could, you know, we can talk about that off camera. Yeah, I also had a lot of siblings. So I'm the oldest of 7. I know you have 7 or 6 siblings too.
6 siblings. We're old. Yeah, you're the oldest of 7. I'm the middle child of 7.
Middle child. Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I always, you know, I was close with my siblings. Like, we always spoke, you know, argued, you know, joked around, all that stuff.
Wrestled,
you know, get into fights, wrestled,
yeah,
you know, 2-on-1, you know, like, you know, all that stuff, pillow fights. And we'd like do sneaky things together. So I was social with them. So I guess it's like an extension of that. maybe. And then also I guess just like practice. I also played team sports too. Like I played football when I was in high
football,
school.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that definitely had a big impact on my life because at least during that 4 year window, that was like if you had asked me what my main focus was in high school, it's definitely football. Like even the computers and all that electromechanical, that I did well enough in that stuff to be eligible for football because my mindset was, yo, I'm going to the league. Like I was a little bit bigger at the time, and if you ask me, I really thought I was nice. Like I honestly think I was one of the better players on that team at my position. There's probably people who would be like, "Oh no, Chuma, you was trash, whatever, whatever." But that was my
Haters will hate.
mindset. Right, haters gonna hate, but I had some good relationships with people on my football team that I still have to this day. So I think that played a big part. I was social with them, in high school in general, and like the more people you talk, and also I think just like I'm Nigerian, and I think that background, or I'm Nigerian American, that background I guess is a little bit unique, but
Talk a little
I
more
think
about that.
yeah, like yeah, it's it's a little bit more unique, and
How so?
it's as in like just like not a lot of people like that when I was growing up, like in the schools I went to were Nigerian American. Like I went to Mark Twain, which is in Coney Island, and
Yeah.
it was like that was my middle school, and it was mostly like Italian, Russian,
Russians, yeah.
Jewish, all that. Russians, I mean, I love Russians. But it was a very diverse school, and Asian community there as well, and same thing goes for Brooklyn Tech. It was like big Asian community, big white community,
A
and
lot,
so
not a
forth.
lot of Nigerian.
Not
Nigerian Americans?
really. I mean, there were a couple. There were a couple, like my boy Alo. I know is Nigerian, but so just being from that being Nigerian American and going into like these groups with very diverse backgrounds, that might have played a role in the sense that like I was like I would always try to I could make friends with someone from like any background, or at least maybe not make friends, but at least have a conversation, get a little bit closer, intimate with people, from any background, because maybe I didn't have, and this is like some psychology, maybe it's because I didn't have, people like me that I could, connect with, so I try to connect with other people. I don't know what the reasoning behind it is, but I do think that maybe played a role, being able to connect with people from all these diverse backgrounds, and maybe that helps me to this day.
The quote that comes to mind when you're talking about this is, I'm paraphrasing, but the boiling water that hardened the egg softened the potato, and I think it's hard to say what each situation does to different people. But it's interesting
Right.
to hear your experiences. Was there ever a time period in your life where this might be too personal, and you're welcome to like be like, all right, maybe after the call, but after
Okay.
the recording. But was there ever a time period in your life where you weren't so confident, or speaking to people didn't come naturally, or you had more nervousness in your body?
Yeah, I was 100% way more nervous in middle school. 100%. But also, like, I definitely got a little bit of bullying when I was in middle school. Like,
Middle school children are the worst. I think I
Yo.
haven't met one person who enjoyed middle school and didn't have bullies.
yeah. Yeah, so that was definitely big, and I was nervous, but I still like, because I was definitely more, I still think I'm nerdy, but I was more nerdy on the fringe when I was in middle school, and but I still had friends like amongst more nerdy people when I was in middle school, like for lack of a better word, on the fringe people, whatever. So but in the general consensus, I wasn't like the super talkative person or anything like that in middle
Social
school, or even
butterfly.
before that. Yeah, I was in a social butterfly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, first, let me say those bullies suck. And second, did that impact you going into high school at all?
Probably that was probably a big reason why I went into playing football. You know,
Really?
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. Also, I was like a little bit fatter, so I think there was an aspect of it that I was like, yo, I want to get a little bit more into shape or a little bit more athletic. But I'm sure there was an aspect of it that was like, oh, cool kids play football, so let me be cool and play football so I can be cool. And yeah.
You've mentioned two big hobbies so far: games, playing video games, and then sports. Do you still do those things now?
Yeah, I'd say caveat on video games, it was computer games because my parents never
Okay.
got me Xbox, any video game system. They had a PS, they got me a PSP one time, but they confiscated it shortly after getting it. And I never saw that
Yeah.
PSP again. But yeah,
They
you
sold
said,
it.
do I have, yeah, probably. You said, did I ever play have any other hobbies?
Are you still doing those two hobbies now?
I do play some, like I have a Nintendo Switch now. I'll play Fortnite, you know, like with my brother every now and then, but I don't play it like religiously.
Right.
And
I
then
know you still
yeah.
work out a lot.
Yeah,
Very
I don't play
active.
football though. I don't play football because football is like it's a team sport. So if you're not on a team, then it's difficult to play football. But I do work out. You know, like I bike a lot now. I got into running a lot over the pandemic. And then like lifting weights has, you know, from football, it's always been a little bit natural to me. I don't lift at weights on the same level as I did when I was in high school.
Makes sense.
But yeah, you know, like when I was in high school, you know, because football was life, da da da. Da. But I still lift weights. You know, I still lift weights semi regularly, and just like I try to, you know, just stay active in general.
Why do you try to stay active, personally?
Yeah, I guess or I try to stay active. I guess just for, you know, health reasons. Also just to stay, you know, I want to stay. I want to
Fit?
get more lean, but also to stay lean. Yeah, fit. And because you know, I just think I look better and feel better when I'm, you know, fit. And yeah.
I know when I'm editing, I'm gonna be so irritated at how many times I've jumped in middle of your conversation. It's the
No, it's
coffee.
okay.
It makes me jittery. No, it's not
It's
so
all
bad
good.
like in conversation, but like if you're in the conversation, but like when you're hearing a recording of yourself, it's absolutely disgusting. It's like every 5 minutes Shizoda comes in helping with a word. I hate it.
Right.
But okay, I think that's. I'm
All
trying
natural.
to section. Yeah, this is unedited raw content. Not sure this will be edited, but not too much.
Okay.
Blink, blink. Okay.
What else
What
you
I was
got for
saying
me?
was no. What I was saying, I lost my train of thought. Initially, what I was saying is, we talked a little about, you know, careers. We talked a little bit about personal life and a little more introspective questions. I want to talk about engineering. What do you
Okay.
think makes a good engineer? Well, actually, first, let's go into. I think your Android development, right? Like, can we talk a little bit about what you've been doing the last 2.6,
Yeah.
2 years and 6 months?
Yeah, so I started at Etsy as an API engineer. So I do work with Android developers and iOS developers, but I mainly
Is that-
work as
What language for API?
PHP
I
primarily.
thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so I've been that's mainly what I've been working on the buying Etsy mobile app, and over my tenure there, I've worked on, you know, all different places of the mobile app. You know, I started out on the cart. We worked on like quote unquote fancy cart, the new design for the cart on iOS and Android, and then from there I did a lot of stuff with the home screen. You know, different modules, recommendation modules, lists and favorites. I worked in this cool project with allowing users to create lists with multiple favorites. And that was like, a big thing on the mobile app. And then I also led this project for giving users recommendations based on the items in their list, which is really cool. I did some stuff with push notifications, and then this year I worked on the update squad for the mobile app and Etsy.com, and I did a bunch of stuff with new integrations into the updates tab on Etsy. We did some stuff with marketing related updates. New from your favorite shop. One for when things are back in stock. Different new update types, and yeah. Sorry.
This isn't all on update APIs, right? You started with APIs, or are you like strictly staying on back end, just working APIs only?
I strictly stayed on the back end with the APIs, working with if there's a because of how Etsy's mobile architecture is set up, like they use some server driven layout, so sometimes I can work on some stuff that doesn't necessarily need iOS or Android input, and I can just just by changing the response of the server, we can change what the app looks like. But if there is a change that does require client side input, then I'll work with them. Giving them the contract, they'll work with me to get that data, call it correctly, and put out these new features.
Is this do you guys use REST API or GraphQL? I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know if it's.
Yeah, we do use RESTful APIs, but we have they have recently tried to start including some GraphQL stuff.
If you've been doing APIs for 2.5 years, does it ever get to a point where you're like, oh, I know everything there is to possibly know about APIs. This is easy. I can do this in my sleep.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's easy and I can do it in my sleep. I don't know everything about APIs, but I do feel comfortable in that world. Putting out changes, doing logic, making sure that clients get the right data from our servers. So I do feel comfortable in that work. But after the most recent project I did, which is updates re-ranking, where we used some machine learning to get scores for updates so that we could re-rank the updates in a user's feed based on what we think is most relevant to them. After I did some of that work, I started getting more and more. It really whet my appetite for the machine learning space. So I have decided to move on to start working on that primarily, and I'm excited to do that in my next endeavor.
Right, you're going to drumroll API. Oh, Amazon. Yeah. Not API, machine learning, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing machine learning there.
It's huge.
And yes, thank you. So I'm working on this team called, what's the name of the team called? Why am I going blank right now? Amazon Shopper Panel. And they have this interesting product that, they give rewards if you take pictures of your receipts and you upload it to them, and then we use machine learning to understand what it says on the receipt, and I'm going to be working on that team. So I'm hoping that it gives me I'm hoping to be like a sponge to just soak up all that knowledge on the machine learning space, and hopefully I can learn from the top engineers at Amazon, and just add that as like another tool in my arsenal.
Are you a software engineer on the team or an ML or AI engineer on the team?
I am a software engineer on the team, but after conversations with my manager, the role said machine learning engineer. I asked the manager, and he said that they don't necessarily want to give me the title machine learning engineer because I don't have any experience as a machine learning engineer, but I'll be working in the function of a machine learning engineer, and after whether it's 6 months, a year, or whatever amount of time, undisclosed time period, then I could transition to have that title change.
Dude, and that's super exciting.
Yeah. So excited to I just want the experience. Like I'm just trying to get this, I just need experience. I just need to learn and experience, and yeah, that's what I want.
One of the questions I really like asking the guests are, what is technology you're excited about? And I'm guessing for you that would be an easy one.
Yeah, definitely machine learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the future. That's what the future holds, and yeah, I know there's some interesting stuff going on in the metaverse and all that stuff. I don't know too much about it, so I don't like necessarily speaking on it without having context. I
Right.
I have some Ethereum, some Bitcoin, full disclosure, but that's it. I'm no expert.
What about for learning? Anything you want to talk about that?
Yeah. In terms of what?
I don't know. What do you want to say
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah, it's I think it's the future. I think it's really cool. I think there's a whole bunch of interesting applications for it that to be to be explored in the future. And I hope to be one of those I hope to be someone who is innovating in that space in the future. And yeah, but I need the experience before I can
Yeah.
even say that.
I think it's pretty awesome that you went from back-end API engineer to machine learning. How does one do that?
Yeah. So yeah, at Etsy, I was my manager gave me a whole bunch of opportunities to do machine learning related work, and with that updates re-ranking project, that was great opportunity that my manager gave me, and yeah, so I was really just I had open communication with my manager, and was expressing interest in that type of work. So when a project came up that needed that type of work, I was like, I guess, first in line to get that, and yeah, and then from there I was applying to some role after that, after I completed that project and I saw the success of it. The company made money off of it and all that. I was like, okay, I want to do this. I want this to be my main job, and I started applying to roles, and yeah, and then just I let any company know that, like, oh, that's what I'm interested in doing in my next role, and yeah, this opportunity came to me.
How do you let the recruiters know what you're interested in? I'm assuming it's somewhere between, like I'm sure you get this. People reach out to you all the time saying, "Hey, do you want to work at this place?" I'm guessing part of that is responding to that and say, "I'm only really open to machine learning opportunities," and I'm assuming another part would be maybe changing your LinkedIn title.
Yeah. I didn't change my LinkedIn title, and I didn't really speak about it until a recruiter or an interviewer maybe asked me about it. And at least with Amazon, I didn't. It might have come up in an interview, like a lot of times they'll ask you something like, "Oh, what type of technologies would interest you for your next role," or like they'll ask you like forward thinking questions, and
Yeah.
that's when that's when I have at least brought it up, and then with Amazon specifically, they had after they so after the on-site interview, they had this survey that they sent me, and they sent me the survey, and they were like, it's like basically like a team matching survey, and you just basically say all the interests that you have, like and I think I put like machine learning, and I probably put gaming because they matched me with a machine learning team and a gaming team, and and from there, like I just interviewed with I had another call with the ML team, and it like I was sold on it. I saw the job description and I was already leaning towards it, and then they I spoke with the manager. He seemed cool, and the team sounded like viable, and like it would give me the opportunity that I was looking for, and I just moved on from there.
I'm only on month 6, maybe month 7 of my current job. And I'm curious what it was like for you the first few months you were starting at Etsy.
Yeah. At Etsy, first few months, I was, well, they had like a sort of onboarding experience. So I had like a onboarding buddy, and they had me, like they have like a super code lab, where it's basically, just
Super
kind
code
of
lab.
a super code lab, you know?
Not just a regular code lab.
Not a regular one. This is a super one. And it's basically kind of just learning, Etsy's system, learning how to push code, this and that. They have you pair with someone to do your first push at Etsy. And it's like, I think it's pushing your logo to the Etsy page, like etsy.com/people. And you just add some, HTML or whatever to add your picture there. And it kind of just shows you how to go through the, push the code push system and all that. And from there it's meetings and all that, but to get acclimated with the team and doing that code lab. And then from there I was when I was like my manager at the time, I was kind of just like, I was like pushing him like, yo, like give me some interesting work. Like I would try to work on product stuff. I'm not trying to do this code lab. So I was kind of pushing it a little bit. So yeah, I wanted to work on product work. So I was like, asking for, those opportunities to actually contribute to what everyone else was working on the team. And
What would you say your level of familiarity is with the work you're going to do at Amazon? One being like a super beginner, like I looked at some code at one point, and 10 being like I can do this all the time. It's no friction.
I would say 1.
Really? Okay. How are you feeling about the onboarding process at Amazon and just getting started somewhere new?
Yo, I'm thinking it's going to be tough. I'm thinking it's going to be time intensive. They said
and that you'll eventually
they use a lot
kick
of
ass.
Java. Yo, that's the plan. That's the plan.
Always the plan.
I plan on putting in the work. But I don't know anything about what, I've never used AWS in like a major way. So yeah, it's a risk. I think it's a risk. But I'm like, just betting on myself and willing to put in the work, put in the hours.
One thing I've been thinking a lot about is the definition of a great engineer. Have you thought about it at all? Like what it means to be a great engineer for yourself? And I mean specifically not just like project management or thinking about impact, but technical skill wise, like scalability, latency, like being able to onboard really fast. Like do you have certain definitions or skill sets you've attached to the concept of a great engineer? Yeah.
I don't know if I would associate it with specific technical skills. So I guess like I'm thinking of the great engineers I know. Like this one person I know at Etsy who's like probably the smartest engineer I ever met, or this other dude at MasterCard who's like super duper smart.
What
been
makes
there
them
for
that
years.
way?
I think they, for one, love to solve problems. So they have like, that's like probably their driving principle in, in work and all that. Like they like those big, difficult problems that they're
not running away from it.
They're not running away from it.
Running towards it. They love it.
Running towards it. They're running towards it. And, they like thinking about it. They like discussion. They like debate. I remember, when I started at Etsy, there's this senior engineer who really should have been like a staff or principal engineer if you look at his background. But I later on found out that he was offered, multiple promotions, but he didn't want to take them because he didn't want to, like, he's the type of person where if he finds a problem, he's going to take that problem home and think about it. And he has a family and kids. So his decision to not go up that level was, outside of the engineering. Right. It was more personal. But when I started at Etsy, I remember like, he would comment on my pull requests and he would be like, could you do it this way? Or, and I would just be like, yo, why he always like, he's always on me, you know what I mean? But then like after a while, I started to embrace it. And like, I would do the same thing on his pull requests. So sometimes, he would post something and like, he's the most tenured person on a team, probably at Etsy, or pretty tenured, and I'd find a mistake. I'd be like, "Yo, what do you think about this?" And then like sometimes we would get into like whole discussions about like one specific little change, and I honestly think that he was like he liked that stuff, and I was like, yo, it kind of became like a little bit of a game. I was like, yo, like, what do you think about, and we would really like have like long conversations about like different decisions, and I decided to do like this, but here's a trade off, and yada yada yada, and like kind of just thinking about it like that. So people who like to solve problems, people who like sort of balancing trade offs, like those sort of maybe debates or something like that. Like thinking through different ways, different options. I've noticed that about him, and people who it's probably the case that people who I don't know if it's the case, but it's probably the case that people who are great engineers might not be the greatest people managers. Maybe I don't know.
Interesting.
Because at least about these two specific people who I know are great engineers, they just cared about solving the problem. They didn't care about like all the office politics or the this, the that. They just cared to solve the problem. What do you think?
That's more of a skill. That's more of a priority rather than a skill. They might be great people managers and just obviously not going to show that. One, fear of promotion, to be forced to be a manager, and two, I mean, it's just not a priority if they enjoy solving more. I don't believe in the whole engineering and people dichotomy. You know how like there's always that stereotype that engineers aren't good at socializing or engineers aren't.
That's definitely not facts.
Yeah. I think that dichotomy, same thing with like the whole STEM and arts dichotomy. You're either a right brain person or a left brain person. First off, that's not how the brain works. But secondly, that's just not, the dichotomy just doesn't exist.
Talk that. Yeah, that's a fact. Because also, like, even with that being said, my favorite managers have also been great engineers. Like my first manager at Etsy who hired me.
It's a rite of passage. I mean, you have to be a good engineer before you can be a manager.
That's a fact. I definitely agree with that. Like to be an engineering manager, you have to be a good engineer. But I have a mentor who would disagree with that too. But it's whatever.
Each their own. You were talking about your first manager.
I mean, he was just a great engineer, and then he's a senior engineer at Etsy, and then my current manager, he was like a staff level engineer on iOS, and he was sort of a mentor to me even before he became a manager. And then it was announced, he's becoming a manager, and I was like, oh, okay, like perfect. You're already kind of a mentor to me, so now that you're my manager, that'll be good too. And he ended up, he was my manager for like the last year and maybe 2 years, something like that. And like 2 years. And he was a great manager, gave me a bunch of opportunities, and I liked working with and for him.
I want to wrap up that last question. What other qualities, attributes, mindsets do you tie to a great engineer personally?
Yeah. What else would I tie to it?
Because I love the first 2 points.
Yeah.
I want to pick your brain before you wrap it up.
Yeah, I might say, what else might I add? There are people who are... What else would I say? I mean, great problem solvers.
There's certain skills you're trying to like develop to become on that quest of becoming the best engineer you can be.
Yeah.
I think always learning is something you're doing.
Always learning. Yeah, always learning. That's a big one. Especially in our field, I feel like you must be always learning. If you're not learning, then you're staying stagnant. And if you're staying stagnant, then your value's falling. I feel, at least in the tech industry, as engineers specifically. But yeah, definitely they like learning a bunch. And are they organized?
Are you organized?
I think so.
With your thoughts, at least?
I try to be, I try to, make lists and all that stuff. Sometimes things escape me, but at least if I have a goal, I'll try to, I'll take measurable steps towards it and all that. My place is kind of organized. You know, I have this, you know, little picture. You know,
it's crooked, by the way.
It's a little crooked. There's only some tape holding it up, but
we need to get you a frame.
Right, my friend made that. He told me to frame it, but you know, it's whatever.
You want to shout him out? Maybe we'll.
Yeah, who's Sean Wells? His I don't know his Instagram, but
it's okay. We'll add it somewhere.
We can add it. Yeah.
Okay, Chuma, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out to interview me.
I feel like I always end the interview with, this person was so much fun, and I feel like I can talk with them, like, you know, till the end of the day, but it really is the truth. And after the podcast recording, we usually just stay on the call longer and just catch up. So I always really do enjoy these, and I hope you do too. I have been thinking more about where to take this next, because I think there's only so much you can speak about in tech careers. But yeah, if you have any suggestions on that, I'd love to hear it. As always, I'm gonna plug all of them again. Join the Discord server, sign up to the mailing list, subscribe, rate, like, comment, follow, and have a lovely day. Bye.